What's going on, everybody? In this video I want to go over Cleanspark and what I expect their July mining update to give us. As you all know, they have seen an increase in exahash, and we're going to do some math on what we should be looking at for the month of July in terms of their Bitcoin production. And we'll also check out what Bitcoin and Cleanspark has been doing on the chart. So let's start this video off. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and let's take a look at Cleanspark. Now, in one of my previous Cleanspark videos, we had an update about their exahash. They reached an 8.5 exahash, and this was announced towards the end of July. And in the beginning of July, they did report that they reached 8 exahash. But let's get some context here. So in the June mining update, they did mine 491 Bitcoin. And as they mentioned in this update, the Washington expansion was going live later this week. That played out. And they also said that they anticipated that their recently announced acquisition, the 2 facilities in Georgia, will be fully operational this month. So we're going to look at a percentage change here. Their June mining update, they were at a 6.7 exahash, and while in July they did reach 8.5 towards the back half of it, we're going to put it at an average of 8, because for the majority of July they were mining at least 8 exahash, and towards the end they got to 8.5. So we're being conservative with these numbers here, but just based on the exahash increase, this is about a 17% increase in production. And translating that into Bitcoin mined, since in June they had 491 Bitcoin mined, a 17% increase of that would set them right around 585 Bitcoin mined in the month of July. And while that number likely isn't going to be 100% accurate, it will be somewhere in that range. Because in the beginning of July, they were right under an 8 exahash, and towards the end of July, they got to an 8.5 exahash. But I do expect somewhere around 100, or specifically around a 90 Bitcoin production increase. Now, as many of you know, Cleanspark is going to be reporting on August 9th, and that earnings report is going to go over April, May, and June. July is not included, but we are clearly moving in the right direction in the quarter we're currently in, starting in July. But let's look over a few things on the chart for Cleanspark, and I'll give you some more thoughts on earnings coming up as well, and of course their July mining update. So for upcoming earnings, they're expecting 45 million. I did a previous video going over what we should see just simply based on the Bitcoin sold. Now, that isn't all the revenue they make, and as another commenter mentioned, they do make something from transaction fees as well. But I'm curious, do you guys think they're gonna hit this $45 million expected revenue? This would be a record-breaking quarter if so. Their previous quarter, they reported 42.5 million, and that was a record-breaking quarter there. So in my opinion, as long as we can beat 42 million and keep seeing those record quarters, I wouldn't be surprised to see a continued rally on this. But if we do miss our revenue expectation and come under our previous revenue of 42.5 million, we may see a little bit of fear there. And like I've said previously, I do see a buying opportunity around earnings, but you do have to consider the July mining update will come before that. And just based on how much the exahash has increased, we may actually see a rally due to the mining update. But I do still personally think the earnings, once that comes out, it may present us with a buying opportunity, but I could of course always be wrong. Now, another thing to consider is their next earnings, just based on how much they've increased their exahash, based on where Bitcoin is at, we could easily see over a $50 million quarter on the earnings starting in July. Now, before we go over Cleanspark on the chart, I did want to mention in the quarter they're about to report, April, May, and June, Bitcoin traded in a range of 31,000 to as low as 25,000. So the fact that Bitcoin is at 29,000, nearly at the high we saw in the last quarter, I do think we're setting up pretty nicely for the quarter we're currently in, July, August, September. Now, one thing you'll notice on Bitcoin that I've been watching for is I was watching for the 50 MA. It does seem like we're starting to break it. It was trying very hard to hold, but if we continue down, which I do kind of expect here, we can definitely see Bitcoin come down to 28,000. I personally think it's unlikely to see the 25 area, 24, 25,000 Bitcoin, but I do think it's possible for us to test the 200 MA, which would be right around 27,000. It could even be 28,000 towards the middle of August. So it really depends on how drastically we fall, how quickly we test the 200 MA. But the chart on Bitcoin is bullish. We are facing ascending moving averages. They are in the right order. We have the 50 above the 200. And despite likely seeing a test of the 200 MA on Bitcoin, I'm still extremely bullish on it. We are approaching the halving. The chart is setting up nicely, but I am watching for how Bitcoin holds the 200 moving average. And you can see this ascending support level too. This yellow line, it does kind of coincide with the 200 MA. So this may be the support we need to see a bounce here right around 28,000. Now, looking at Cleanspark, it does look like we're trying very hard to hold this previous resistance, this ascending level, which does look like it's trying to shape out as a support. Of course, if Bitcoin does pull back to 28,000, we would likely break this and test the 50 moving average, which is right around $5, which is also an area of likely support. This was a previous very strong resistance. You can see we hit it 4 times before finally breaking out of it. And it was even a resistance back in August of 2022. So I do personally think if Cleanspark does pull back a bit, this 520 or so level is going to be very important to watch. And this is conveniently right around where the 50 moving average is. Now, another thing I'm watching for on the shorter term on Cleanspark is a break above 625. We did have a previous bearish engulfing candle, and I would like to see us break above that. And maybe the upcoming mining update gives us what we need to see a break above 635, and maybe even a push back to previous highs right around 750. But regardless of what happens to Cleanspark and Bitcoin over the short term, I do believe upcoming earnings are going to continue to get better and better as we approach the halving and as Cleanspark continues to mine more and more Bitcoin per month. Their hash rate continues to increase, but we are ticking closer and closer towards the end of this year where they do expect 16 exahash. Maybe in the upcoming earnings, they give us an update on that. It does seem like we're getting awful close to the end, and they still have a long way to go to reach that 16 exahash target by year end. But let me know in the comments below, do you think Cleanspark is going to reach that 16 exahash target? Do you think they're going to fall short? And also, how do you feel about their upcoming July mining update and earnings just around the corner? I do think from here on out, we're going to continue to see better and better quarters where revenue is concerned. And as Bitcoin eventually pushes higher, coming up to the halving, we will start seeing profitability again on Cleanspark. But thanks as always for watching, guys. Let me know how you feel about Cleanspark and Bitcoin down below, and let me know what other miners you want me to cover. And coming up soon, I will be doing a small cap video about earnings. We have a lot of earnings coming out, and this all circulates around the beginning of August. So it should be a very exciting month for small caps.